Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you've stumbled across this video, it means you're looking for some answers, I guess, on how to deal with grief. And I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I have been through it. I lost my mum when I was 11 years old, and I'm not going to lie to you, that pain never goes away. And if you think you're going to be the same person, then you're not. It completely changes you, but not for the bad. It changes you for the good. Like, when I look back at my life, I think, you know, things would have been so much different if that didn't happen. I mean, it's taught me so much. It's taught me how to live each day as if it's your last. You know, just not taking the small moments for granted. And ever since then, I've always lived that way. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were times in my childhood where I was just destructive. Like, I just wanted to hurt myself, just to feel something, because I was so numb for so long. I mean, it wasn't just because of losing a parent. There were other things in there. I mean, my dad, he dealt with grief completely, I wouldn't say the wrong way, because we all have ways of coping, and I can, like, looking back now, I can completely understand why he behaved the way he did. He was going, you know, he lost the love of his life. Still to this day, he always tells me that, you know, my mum was the love of his life. He would never want to move on from that. He's never got married or had a serious relationship. I mean, he always says, you know, there's nobody better. I was meant to be with your mum forever, and I am going to be with your mum forever because she's a special lady. And I just, looking back, I wish he just told me that when I was little. He was very much of, you can't cry. If you have to cry, you have to go and hide away. And I was 11 years old, so that kind of mentality stuck with me through my adult life. And I'm not going to lie to you, if people knew me when we were a teenager, I was a massive bitch. I was awful. Like, not like mean, I just knew what I wanted, and if I didn't get it, then go fuck yourself. It was weird, but then it made me who I am today. So it's, yeah, grief is a weird, very weird thing, but there are millions of ways of coping with grief. I wish I had it sooner. I mean, there's no right way to feel. Well, I had to move on very quickly. I was 11 years old, so you know, I was always taught to just move on with it. Come on, you've got this to do, you've got this to do. Come on, do all this, blah, blah, blah. So, and most of the stuff, like, I've forgotten about. I think being in therapy and things, they say that you've sort of like repressed a lot of memories because you just don't want to remember that time. And I completely get that. And I don't think I ever want to relive that time. Like, people say, oh, do you remember your childhood? I'm like, no. Do you remember, oh, you know, I wish I went back to secondary school. Oh, I love those times. Yeah, no, not for me. That wasn't a good time for me. I literally don't remember any secondary school moments at all. I remember it, although I remember getting like the shitty bus. I remember it raining and being cold. I remember a guy that I really used to fancy. He was cute, but that's about it. The rest of the memories are like, nah, not a good time. But I think that's just because, you know, grief sort of overtook me. I was in a very sad place for a long time, and I was growing up, and I didn't know how to feel or what to feel. And, you know, I had that sort of mentality where life wasn't fair. Like, why did you take my mum away from me? You know, all my friends at school, they had mums and dads, and, you know, I kind of felt like it's not fair. Like, but then you shouldn't think, you shouldn't think like that. Life is not about comparing yourself to others. I mean, I was a kid, I needed my mum. Like, this sounds really too personal, but like, obviously growing up as a young lady, and my dad not really knowing what to do, you know, when you have your first period, or you want to shave your legs, or you fancy a guy, you can't really go to your dad for that. So that yeah, it was very odd, but luckily I had older sisters that have helped me, and, you know, helped me grow into a young lady that knows what periods are and how to shave. So yay. But yeah, that's a little bit of backstory about my grief, and this is just ways about how I coped. I didn't start coping, and I didn't even start realising that I was going through a hard time until I was 16. I got my first job and I worked at Burton Babes. If you're there, Burton Babes. Yeah, it was a men's shop. I worked with all guys, I think. It was only my twin sister Cody, she worked there. Laura, who's Steve's wife, not Laura who I work with now, but there was a lovely lady called Laura there, who's married to Steve, which is someone who I used to work, well, I would say he was like my bestie outfit. But then other than that, there wasn't many girls when I first started. No, it was all guys, and loved it. I get on with guys better than girls for some reason, just absolutely loved it. But then things started happening, like I used to faint all the time. I used to get really painful tummy aches, like to the point where I was like going blind, like with pain. I'd feel sick and dizziness, I couldn't see, and it was so, I like literally thought I was dying. And then like I went to the doctors and things, and they were like, well, these are actually panic attacks, these are anxiety and depression that have just manifested through your body. There's nothing wrong with you, you just have anxiety and depression. And for a long time I was like, no. No, I don't have that. Like, I think when I was 16 it wasn't as more aware as it is now. It was very much of no, like, oh, you're mentally ill, what the fuck you mentally ill? And it was a bit like, I don't want to be mentally ill. No, something has to be wrong with me, you know, I'm not mentally ill. And then they put me on like amitriptyline, and it didn't do anything, and I just refused to believe that I was going through a hard time. So I just came off those and just carried on living my life. You know, like crying all the time, sometimes hurting myself when it got too much. It was just destructive, and I only ever really got the help I needed 5 years ago. That's when I first started working at the NHS. I decided, you know what, I don't want to feel this way anymore. Like, I don't want to cry all the time. Like, the main realisation for me that I wasn't coping, or I hadn't realised my inner childhood trauma, I hadn't overcome the grief of my mum, because for a very long time I couldn't talk about it. When people mentioned it, I would just like be very short sentences. I would just cut them off or walk away, or it was very strange. But there came a time where I worked at Outfit. I remember I was dating a boy, and he didn't want to date me anymore, and I was very, very upset, like to the point where I shouldn't have been that upset, because I'd literally only been dating him for like 3 months. It's like, okay. So I think that was a big realization for me. I was like, do you know what, I'm not sad because a boy doesn't want to be with me. I think it's more of the abandonment issues that I was going through. I thought that nobody would ever love me. I thought, you know, I'm in a job that I don't enjoy. People take it so seriously, it's just clothes. I remember standing at the till and like just gazing into the distance thinking, what, this can't be my life. I can't do this anymore. And literally one day I went in there, and this is when I worked at Outfit, and this lovely girl, Leanne, she worked in the stock room, and she has like this weird intuition thing. She knew that something wasn't right, and she just literally come up to me and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I just burst into tears, and I just admitted to it. I was like, "I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this is not for me. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. But then if I'm not here, where do I go? I don't want to go home. I just don't want to be anywhere." And it was that moment there when Leanne said to me, "I think you need to go and get some help." And that was like, yeah, that was the realisation where I thought, do you know what? I have not dealt with my childhood trauma. I've not dealt with my grief. I need to go and get some help before this gets ridiculous, like out of hand. And yeah, so then that's when I started getting better. I went to the doctors. They put me on citalopram, I think. I don't know how to say it. I'm very blonde. But I'm still on those now, purely because this is the happiest I've ever been. And honestly, I'm quite frightened of feeling that way again. I don't want to feel that way again. So I am on those. Lots of serotonin. Love it, love it, love it. So yes, definitely, if you're feeling that way, then go to the doctors and do get some medication. I know it's very taboo and people hate it and they don't want to be on them. They think they can fight it on their own. But honestly, when you have nowhere else to turn, you do need that strength of medication. Well, I did anyway. It's not for everybody, but it's definitely helped me a million times. It just made me focus more and made me kind of realise what was happening. Like, it wasn't normal to go home and cry every day. It wasn't normal to wake up and feel like a 10 ton of bricks on your chest and not knowing why. Like, why did I feel that way? It was just silly. And after I took those, it helped a lot. Like, it wasn't, the sadness wasn't there as much, but I knew I needed to work on more and more, kind of delving through, you know, just what was happening. Like, I was, what, so 5 years ago, you know, I was in my 20s. This should be the happiest time of your life. Why am I feeling like that? So that helped me a lot. I also went through therapy, just to overcome like all these feelings and, you know, what I hadn't dealt with. Obviously I won't go into that because I felt like I've shared too much and I've not actually got onto the topic at hand. But I kind of feel like you needed a backstory anyway, because this is just my journey. These are the things that helped me. So yeah, I ramble anyway. It's not an uncomfortable subject, but I feel like putting this out into the world is very scary. It's very scary. So yeah, that's just the backstory of where I am today. So firstly, okay, getting over grief. It's gonna take a long time and people heal in so many different ways. First thing that you need to do is not put a time scale on it. Like, I'm going to be honest with you, you're going to feel numb and you're going to feel sad for a long time, and it is going to change you as a person. For the better though. It will change you for the better. You know, being at home helped. You know, I really needed time to just sit on the sofa or sit on your bed and have a cuddle, anything, and just be you know, have a cry. It's okay to cry. So it's good to look back on memories and feel, you know, emotion, like all kinds of emotion. And it's kind of good to reminisce. But you don't want to get stuck in that rut for a long time. What is really good is getting some fresh air. So if you've been on the house all day crying and, you know, you just don't feel up to anything, then please just make sure you go out for like a 10-minute walk. Just get some fresh air. You don't even have to go far. Just sit in your garden for a little bit. Just make sure you're getting that fresh air. It will make 10 times a difference, I promise you. Even if you just don't want to move. And I get that. You're okay. It's gonna be okay, I promise. But you do need some fresh air. Also, being around loved ones. Don't shut yourself off to the world. You know, be with people. I mean, you don't even have to talk to them. Just sit with them. And it's better to do that than be on your own, because it will make you feel so much better in the long run. Also, like sort of if you don't want to go to a therapist or whatever, therapy workshops help online. There are so many. I will link some in the description box below if you want to check them out. But it's all about keeping your mood up, if that makes sense, and sort of celebrating their life, not being sad all the time. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're allowed to be sad, but you need what they wouldn't want you sitting around being sad all the time. I mean, I always see like little angel feathers and I'm like, oh hi mum, like you're here today. You know, she's always with you. Well, with me, not with you. But you know, if you've lost a loved one, they are always with you, and they come around, and it's weird. They kind of know when you need them. Like I'll be on holiday and I'll be like having a drink with Adrian, and it's like in the sunset, and you're like, wow, life is just so beautiful, and you're so grateful. And John Lennon will come on, and you're like, oh my God, Mama's here. As she loved John Lennon. And it's just a wonderful feeling. Like it, I mean, when I first, you know, say if I heard like a Barry White song or a John Lennon song, I'd be like, oh my God, which is perfectly understandable and fine. You're allowed to cry, for Christ's sake. Crying is good. It lets all those emotions out. And, you know, I used to sit there and scream. Like it's really good to let all that energy out. You know, like, can't keep it bottled in, and you can't have a brave face all the time, because you're going to do yourself damage. You really are. But it's just one of those things that take time. And, you know, for me, I always sit back and think, you know, it's not fair. I want a mum. You know, I still want my mum now. Of course I do. But life wouldn't give you something you couldn't handle. And I had so many great memories with my mum growing up, like so many. And, you know, I look back and think, you know, we were lucky that we knew that she was dying. She had bowel cancer, and she had 2 years left to live. So we made lots and lots of memories. We went on lovely holidays that she enjoyed. Yes, she loved a holiday. And she made like a memory box. So I've got a lock of her hair, I've got her watch that she always used to wear, I have little love notes everywhere, and that will always be special to me, because I can still hear her voice now. I can still hear her laughing, and you know, I've got all these pictures of her around the house, and it's just beautiful. It's not feeling of sadness anymore, it's feeling of life and beauty and happiness, and you know, all these lovely memories. And I remember when I was little and I was crying, and she came into my bedroom and was like, Mummy's little sunshine crying. I thought it was Mummy's little sunshine crying. And I'd be like, Mummy, I don't want you to go. I don't want you to go to heaven. I'm gonna miss you. I don't want, you know, I need you. And she was like, Tegan, what you have to realise is that I'm losing everybody. Like, there's loads of people who I'm gonna miss, and you're only missing one person. And I was a bit like, what? What? No, just don't go. I don't see why you have to go. And like, looking back now, I think, wow, that must be really hard for her. Like, I never saw her cry. I never saw her be sad about what was happening to her. She was always so accepting of it. And then, you know, when she said that, and being older and realising, you think, wow, you know, I wouldn't have been able to do that. It's just amazing. So anyway, I digress a lot. I saw actually a thing on the internet where my sister actually sent it to me, and it's called like a grief bubble. So you have like a little bubble, and then in the corner you have like a little button, and that's where grief is. And it was so big that it's always hitting that button. And then after time, your bubble gets smaller, and it's just bouncing along in that bubble, not always hitting it, but then sometimes it hits it and it's still raw and it's still painful as it once was, but then it bounces off again. So it's kind of like, grief will always be there, losing a loved one will always be there, and it's hard. But over time, you don't seem to notice it anymore, and you kind of remember all the lovely things that happened, and it doesn't seem as painful, and you just kind of remember the good. And when you have a cry, they're like happy tears because you're remembering them, not mourning the loss of someone. So if you are struggling with losing a loved one and grieving, there are so many ways that you can get help. There are online therapy classes which are free. I will link them below. You can go to the doctors if things get really, really bad. And there are a lot of self-help books as well. I know it sounds silly, but it really did help for me. So I'm going to leave it there because I feel like I've rambled like a lot. But if you did click on this and you are struggling with grief, then I'm so sorry for your loss, and things will get better. And please just be surrounded by the people that you love, and just try and enjoy each moment, because as you know, life can be taken away very quickly. So yeah, also, you're gonna be okay, little one. Yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you're all okay. I hope you are all well, and I hope this has kind of helped you a little bit. But take care. Love you.